What's up, everybody? Charlie Potter, senior team writer for BamaOnLine here, joined by Jimmy Stein. And Jimmy, it's game week, man. And it's not only game week, we have football tomorrow at Bryant-Denny Stadium. That's really exciting. I don't know about you, but for me, it feels like it's been a 4-year long off season. It was
Really?
certainly a different one, but
Yeah.
thinking back to January 10th and hell, even the Rose Bowl, to finally be here, it's just super exciting, man. To have Alabama football in Tuscaloosa, it's going to be a lot of fun on Saturday.
It's an off season unlike any other in 17 years. It's been 17 years since there's been a new coach on the sideline, new offense, new defense. One thing about Saban, he adjusted. He made changes year to year based on what he thought we needed on the field. But obviously, we have radical changes: new offense, new defense. I mean, there's going to be a lot to take in. As crazy as it sounds, I'm just as much looking forward to watching the tape, as I call it, Sunday, as I am live Saturday night, just to watch it over again in more detail, which I'm going to do and share with everybody on the site because there's so much to take in. It will be hard to do so just with one watch Saturday night live.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of new. I do think, I don't think they're going to come out and show their entire hand. I don't think anybody expects that, but there's going to be a lot to take in. Saturday is going to be almost overwhelming, just in terms of finally getting to see this Kalen DeBoer team on the field. And we've had a ton of coverage this week between me and you and Blake Byler. Andrew Bones stepped in. I know he has an exciting story on the site today. I don't know if it's up yet when this is up, but I don't want to give it away. I'll let Andrew do that. But we've just had a ton of coverage, and one thing that I posted on the site yesterday was Alabama's former captains Mike Johnson, Rashad Johnson, talking about that change 17 years ago, and it is going to feel different with Nick Saban not leading that team out of the tunnel. It has felt different going into that Monday press conference, and not only hearing from Kalen DeBoer, but hearing from coordinators. So it's been a lot of the same, like we've talked about kind of on every show, but there is a different feeling going to this game. And I think there's a lot of excitement.
Oh, I mean, I know. Speaking for myself, there certainly is, and it's I was talking about the new scheme, and that's huge. New scheme
Yeah.
offense, new scheme defense, new players. A tremendous influx of talent from the transfer portal alone. I think the casuals, as Josh Pate calls them, the casuals, they're going to be looking at their program, their game program, more often than usual because casuals might be more like, who is LT Overton? Who's Keon Sapp? Who's Jeremy Bernard? Am I saying that right? That's what Graham Nicholson. Who is this? Because there's so many transfer guys that will play in huge roles. To say nothing of true freshmen, that we've talked about a long time on our shows and in our writing. Ryan Williams and Xavier Brown in particular, nominees. I think you wrote up nominees this week for the Sean Alexander Award. So a lot of new faces, and that makes things exciting too, right? I mean, it's why I love college football. I always have, because of the change, because of the new faces. Every year it's a new team, and every 2 or 3 years they cycle out even faster now thanks to the portal. But I enjoy the new lineups each and every year, and there's a lot of new in this lineup.
No doubt. And you mentioned those game programs. Be sure to buy those at Bryant Denny Stadium. You're
Heck
sure
yeah.
in those. If you're not a subscriber at BOL, which you should be, those are on the site on Friday. And the first ones are from Kalen DeBoer. I sat down with him before the season, and then the other ones are on the coordinators. But if you're at the stadium, pick those up. And I'll say this too. If you're not a member at BOL, now's a great time. It's the last day of our 50% off promo. I know a lot of people have been jumping at that. It's a great time because you'll get a year's worth of VIP access to BOL, to everything that Jimmy and I post and the rest of the gang. It's a great time. But I think this week it's been exciting to kind of start to ramp up for a season, talk about what we're excited to see, because we've kind of done this a lot this month. But I think we have a really good understanding of what to expect. And heck, we'll get a depth chart on Saturday too. That's exciting when we get in the press box. I know everybody's chomping at the bit for that, but you're right. There's so much new just in terms of coaches and players. But I also think that I'm interested to see some of the returning players and what they look like in this new scheme, particularly Jalen Milroe. I know we'll probably talk about that a little later, but what does this offense look like with Milroe at the helm, with Nick Sheridan in his ear and with Kalen DeBoer overseeing everything as well. I think just what the offense looks like in these first couple games is maybe something that the fans are most interested in, maybe more than anything else.
I think a lot of fans have whipped themselves into a frenzy based on the DeBoer Sheridan success on offense, throwing in now Jalen Milroe, Heisman candidate, that they'll be disappointed if we ever see Ray Guy candidate James Burnett punt once this year. You know, that'll be disappointing for some. But the offense is going to be different. I think there will be more passing.
Mhm.
In part, they didn't throw it a lot last year because it just made all the sense in the world. As a brand new quarterback, you were huge up front. You had a deep stable of quality backs in Jace McClellan, Roydell Williams, Jam Miller, and Justice Haynes. Made all the sense to run the ball a lot a year ago. The quarterback was good with his feet and legs. So it made sense not to throw it a lot. So they only threw it 23 times a game. This year, I'm going to go as high as maybe 34 times a game. I mean, so which was a gigantic, it's almost a 50% increase in passes. And that's what I think is coming. I think they'll throw it more, but that's going to lead to more first downs. That's going to lead to more plays. So I'm not saying that they're going to run it less. I think there'll be more play, more first downs, more throws. The key with Jalen, I think, Charlie, starting tomorrow night is throwing it more. Can he maintain the same efficiency level he did a year ago? He was actually one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the country per every QBR formula out there. He was one of the more efficient guys in college football. Throwing it as much as 50% more often, will he still be able to maintain that level of efficiency? If he does, that means really big things for this offense.
Yeah, no doubt. And look at you being in midseason form. I was scrolling up here to look at how many passing attempts they had per game, and you hit it on the money, man. So you've been doing your homework. You're ready to roll. And I think that leads us into a good segue because we want to talk about some of these position groups of interest for Alabama going into the opener. And with Milroe and that passing game, I think the wide receivers, man, I think what they can do is going to be fascinating to see play out because I think that, yes, Jalen needs to take that next step forward, but some other guys at receiver are going to have to step up as well and make some plays. They've got talent, they've got speed, and it's going to be really intriguing to see kind of who makes up that rotation. I think we have a good idea, and even Kalen DeBoer kind of shed light on that. He was asked about it on the SEC teleconference on Wednesday, and he mentioned 5 to 7 players just in this game one rotation. He said they have a solid 6. I think you and I go into those open, or not open, but the media viewing periods of practice. We have a good understanding that Jeremy Bernard, Kendrick Law, Kobe Prentice are definitely going to be in that mix. And then maybe Emmanuel Henderson, Cole Adams as returners, and then our boy Ryan Williams is a true freshman. I'll be fascinated to see if anybody cracks that rotation beyond that 6. It is the first game. Alabama should win this one handily. So some guys are going to get on the field probably late, but just in those first team crucial moments, who's getting the lion's share of those looks? I think those 6, that's probably a good starting spot.
I couldn't agree more. I think those will be, I'll be surprised if they aren't the first 6 that we see. And, really in terms of, okay, what's the first team, rotation? You'll be able to see in the first quarter, probably in the entire first half. I mean, those are first team players. By that, I mean, guys that play with the ones. When the game's in doubt, when the game hasn't been secured, they're out there playing with the first team quarterback, the first team offensive line. That's your first team wide receivers. I think you nailed it with those 6. I think there's a couple on the cusp that will have the opportunity to earn their way into that group. Caleb Odom, the freshman from Carrollton, Georgia. I think Jaron Hamilton is a guy that could potentially get a look with the ones from Gainesville, Florida. Maybe one of the freshmen like Rico Scott or Bubba Hampton. But I think Caleb Odom and Jaron Hamilton are guys that are close. But the thing is, I know a lot of fans, they clamor for, they want to see all these guys. They're excited to see these new guys. But boy, once you start getting 7, 8 guys in your wide receiver rotation, you need to be careful because what can happen is if you're regularly playing 8, you're in the second half in Baton Rouge and it's time to make a play and you look up and the wide receivers on the field are Odom and Hamilton and Emmanuel Henderson, and you don't have Law and Prentice and Ryan Williams out there. You've got to play your best players when it matters the most. And when your rotation gets too deep, you can almost inadvertently not always have your best players on the field. And that won't matter so much for Western Kentucky, to be honest, but it will matter hugely with the schedule that Alabama has. So I think the depth of the rotation is certainly interesting, but I wouldn't be surprised if they sort of kept it at 6 with maybe occasional dips into the 7th and 8th guy.
No doubt. And I think for Alabama, if this game plays out the way that it wants, then every wide receiver should see the field on Saturday at some point in the game. But you're right; they need to kind of get that tightened up. And going on the road at Wisconsin, you don't want to have a guy that maybe is on the cusp, like you said, out there playing a ton of first team minutes. You want to be able to figure out who your go-to guys are, your reliable receivers, who they are, and be able to roll into SEC play having a good idea of that. And I think they do. I think that Jamarcus Shepard's been a little coy with us just in terms of how he's not really tipped his hand either way. Kalen DeBoer's been more straightforward, so that's been nice. But I think Jamarcus Shepard likes his group. He just keeps using that inexperienced word, and he's not wrong. I think this is a group that has a lot to prove. And speaking of that, a group that has a lot to prove is the offensive line. And this is a group that has 3 starters back. In the spring we were talking about only 2 because Caden Proctor wasn't around. You insert Parker Brailsford from Washington, and then you have the right tackle spot, which is still kind of up for grabs in a rotation. So Kalen DeBoer mentioned that he could easily see Alabama playing 6 offensive linemen with kind of that rotation at right tackle. Do you think we'll see any more with that first group, or you think that basically the left side up to right tackle is set going into this one?
That's what I think, Charlie. I think left tackle, left guard, center, and right guard are set. I think those are the guys. We know they are. Now, they may want to take a look because it's a long season. You make it to the postseason, it's literally the longest season in college football history. You better have other guys ready to go. Mm-hmm. So does that mean taking a look at a second center, maybe a Geno Vandermark, maybe Rock Montgomery, maybe even true freshman Joe Ioannata, who's certainly gotten a lot of time there in fall camp. But so do you look at a second guy? Do you look at Miles McVay? Do you look at Olas Alanin, who's a very promising guy for the future? But I think in terms of who's the first team, those 4 guys are set. It's only the battle at right tackle. I was asked an interesting question just this week, and it's interesting. I didn't really look at it this way, but the question's good. It made me think: is right tackle not settled because neither one is that good? Or is right tackle not settled because both kids are good? I'm the optimist, as everybody that reads the Roundtable BOL knows, sort of optimist. I'm not an optimist, but hey, I'll also tell you when I'm worried about something. I think the fact that they're so open to playing more than one tackle, to me, the message it sends is they like both. If they didn't like both, I think the answer would be, the battle continues, but we really only want to play one guy. So one of them needs to emerge. I think that would be their answer. Instead, their answer all fall camp, Charlie, their answer seems to be, hey, we'll play 2 all year. That, to me, sort of sends a message that they like both of these guys, that it's not a lesser of 2 evils situation.
Yeah, I agree. I do think that they both have strengths. I do think there's things that they want to see them do a little better also. I think that Wilkin Formby, going back to the spring, and he had the benefit of no Caden Proctor, so Elijah Pritchett was really on that left side for all the spring, but he got a lot of work there. Every time we've been on the field, he's been the first one up at right tackle. I think he's who we see start this game. But I think for me, I was kind of interested in, would we see a rotation at the tackle spots? Like maybe Elijah Pritchett gets work at both, because we saw him last year. He and Caden Proctor kind of cycled in kind of midway through the season before Proctor won the job. You just wonder with Proctor, learning the offense, being back on the field after missing a lot of time because of his transfer, if that's what they do. But I guess that's still 6 linemen. I guess my math is still pretty bad, so the number would still be there. But no, I like what you said, because I think right tackle, there's bright spots, and I think that from both players, and I think that they would like to play both. And I think this situation presents itself with they're giving them more opportunities to go out and win the job. I don't know if it'll last all season. Heck, we saw Tyler Booker when he was a true freshman. He kind of rotated at both guard spots as a true freshman to, to relieve some guys and just get guys on the field and keep guys fresh. And so I think if one of these players can win the job, they would love that. But if they're still battling and kind of neck and neck, then there's no harm in playing both.
Yeah, well, if you're playing into a 13th game, a 14th game, a 15th game, you're almost dreaming if you think you're going to do it with 5 guys. I mean, there's going to have to be other offensive linemen that play significant snaps, and it's going to be better to play them now. You don't want to see, just pick a name, Olas play his first snaps that matter in the second round of the college football playoff, and you're up against Ohio State. I'm not sure that needs to be his first snaps,
Right.
when it really matters. So I think playing more players, that's another interesting thing of the 1,000 things we get to find out Saturday night is, are they going to play more players? And by that, I mean with the first team. I think we know, Charlie mentioned earlier in the show, which is so correct, that we're probably going to see every receiver, all the scholarship guys. That's probably right. But in the first half, while the game is still undecided, while they're still playing who they view as the first team, are we going to see more guys? And at Wisconsin, are we going to see more than 5 DBs play? Are we going to see more than 2 inside linebackers play? The traditional things that under 17 years of Saban, where there wasn't a lot of substitution except at wide receiver and maybe the defensive line, there wasn't many other spots where they played a lot of guys. I tend to think, or I'm guessing, that they do play more, in part because it's a different group of coaches, and secondly, because of the possibility that the season will last so long. You just need more guys who are ready to play.
And I'm glad you mentioned the defensive backfield, because that was kind of our third group we were going to highlight, because I think a lot of the spots are pretty clear. Malachi Moore is going to be on the field. He's your quarterback back there, along with Deontay Lawson. He and Keon Sabb have been a great tandem for Alabama. And I think Devontae Smith has really emerged at that Husky position, even though I think Red Morgan had a good offseason as well. But corner, outside Damani Jackson, who just seems like he's locked up one of those spots, I'm interested to see what they do there if they play 1, 2, or maybe even 3 guys in this first game, because I think Deshaun Jones coming over from Wake Forest, he's an experienced player that they feel like they what did Mo Linguist said they made contact with at the plate, to use a baseball term. And then I think some young guys like Zabian Brown and even Jalen Mbakwe could find themselves into playing some first team minutes here early in the season. I think they want to find out really what they have, and there's no better way to do that than to get these guys some reps on the field. And I wonder if even maybe they kind of rotate Damani just for that reason alone, is to get these young guys some experience in these early games. And they're going to be tested against a high-powered offense in Western Kentucky, one of those air raid type offenses. So what do you think from a corner perspective? How many do you kind of expect in this first game?
It's such a fun, good question. I wouldn't be surprised to see all 3 candidates for that other corner spot play that other corner spot, whether you're talking about Mbakwe, Zabian, or Deshaun Jones. One thing about playing them in the games that's a little different than practice, yes, they chart things in practice, but the games, that's so much more clear. One thing that coaches can use, because you're playing more than one guy in games, is you can point to the grades. When it comes time to decide who's going to play late in the games or who's going to start the next game, you just point to, hey, he played better in the game. Because if you're Deshaun and you're coming here from Wake and you transferred here, and you're like, hey, I transferred all the way over here. I was starting where I was, and now you got a freshman playing in front of me. It's a little easier to sell him on. Yeah, last week you graded out a B-, and this dude's an A+. I mean, or whatever system that is that they're using. So the point is, I think when you play multiple players in the game situations, it sort of sorts itself out better sometimes than you can on the practice field, particularly in a situation where you've got like a redshirt junior competing with true freshmen for spots.
We're going to move a little bit off topic from that, but still sticking with the game clearly. And we'll stay on the defensive side of the ball. We'll start on defense. I know I kind of teased up offense for you first, but wanted to kind of get specific in terms of players of interest. That's always, you can make a list of 40 guys for this game. But when you look at the defensive side of the ball, who's somebody that you're maybe most interested to see in this first game, maybe from a progress standpoint, or maybe from a just finally getting to get your eyes on him on the field in a game situation?
Gosh, there are literally so many. I mean, I could just flood out 6 or 8 names. I'll just pick one that, based on what we were able to view at our media viewing practices, a guy that caught my eye a few times that I would say I'm even more excited about than I was in the spring, and that's Keon Sabb, the safety from Michigan. He'd only had 5 starts at Michigan. I think there was this idea. He came in shortly after Caleb Downs left, and I think some fans kind of jumped on the, oh, well, Caleb out, Caleb in, and that's not at all what the situation was. Keon had only started 5 games at Michigan in their national championship season. But when you go back and you watch him in some of those games, this was an impactful, really good player. And I've been impressed with this. I know that safety's maybe not the most loaded position on the roster, Charlie, but I'm impressed with the fact that Keon shows up in the spring. And to our knowledge and from our media viewing, even in the spring, this guy's been a first team playing with the ones guy from the jump, and it's never changed. It doesn't appear to me, and I could be wrong for sure, but it doesn't appear to me like he's been challenged, that the Red Morgans and the King Max and the Drake Kirkpatrick's and the Cam Howard who started games at Charlotte last year. It looks like Keon just had his position on lockdown from day one, and it's never changed. And then in practice, he looks really smooth. He's a center fielder type, very rangy. The coaches pretty much rave about him, when they're asked, whether it's Colin Hitchler or Kane Womack, they rave. So Keon's a guy I'm going to watch really closely Saturday night, because I think he's a guy that might be even better than I assumed he would be in the spring.
Yeah, the coaches, you mentioned it, have been really high on him, even dating back to the spring. But Kane Womack mentioned it this past week, how he's a phenomenal communicator, and I think having that paired with Devontae Smith is huge. And that's not a knock on Caleb Downs by any means, but he was a true freshman last year. To have a more veteran presence alongside the most veteran presence, that's a win-win situation, at least from a communication standpoint. I'll be interested to see, what he looks like from an on-the-field standpoint as well. I think he'll be really good, but I didn't want to go double transfer here, but I'm going to, because going back to last Sunday, I posted kind of a prediction story in terms of, MVPs, breakout players, and my breakout player on the defensive side of the ball is a guy in LT Overton. I know he hasn't been in the program, but he's been in college football, and he's been out of position. And now playing that bandit role in Kane Womack's defense, it just feels like an ideal fit for him. And he's someone that you and I have both heard just really good things about throughout the preseason. He's been disruptive, and I think they need that up front. Losing a guy like Justin Aboigbe, which I don't know if Justin would have been playing that bandit position necessarily, but to have that pass rush that's not at the Wolf position. It's not necessarily a D tackle or a nose guard getting pressure up the gut, but to have that along that defensive line, I think is huge. And I think Jamarian Latham's going to be a hell of a player for Alabama. He has been. He's played a lot of football, but I think also having a guy like LT Overton at that spot, I think he's someone from a pass rush standpoint, when they get into what used to be the Rabbits look in an obvious passing situation, I think LT Overton could be on the field a lot, and he can make a lot of negative plays for Alabama.
No, I like it. I think it's sometimes when fans or somebody might refer to it as the light coming on, and I hear that all the time. I say it myself. So I'm not taking a shot here. I use it myself. But sometimes the light coming on is no more than a series of facts coming together and meeting together. And with LT Overton, here's a fact: he was a reclass. His first year at A&M, when he didn't do much, guess what? He should have been in the 12th grade. So last year 2, maybe you should expect more. But he's still, age-wise, a true freshman, and he's not really playing the right position, or so we think.
Mm-hmm.
So he gets to Alabama, and now not only is he in a better position, it's year 3. The fact that he reclassed is in the history books. He would now be in a year 2. It's his 3rd year of playing college football. So those facts, fans might call it, boy, the light really came on for LT. I would say, well, really, he's finally in the right position. He's finally a more confident kid. And this is year 3 for him. He should be a better player in year 3. Then throw in the fact he's surrounded maybe by better players, maybe some better coaching. A&M, things seemed a little off kilter. That's why they fired the last guy, right? So I think things are present for LT to have a big year. And anyone that says, well, the light came on for him, well, yeah, but maybe it should. Maybe things are lined up for him to have a breakout type year.
Speaking of reclassifying, we're going to swap to the offensive side of the ball, and I'll give you the floor. I don't want to set you up, but I feel like the obvious answers come in when you talk about an offensive player you're excited to watch.
So funny. Just earlier today on another show, I mentioned that I wonder if I have said the name Ryan Williams once a day for the last 2 years. I think it's 2 years. I've mentioned this kid at least once. So yeah, excited to see Ryan. It's been a long time coming.
Mm-hmm.
I like, the thing I enjoy saying about Ryan, which is just so mind-boggling I know a lot of people listen to the show, follow recruiting, and here's the state's only 2-time Mr. Football. He's the only one to ever do it, and he didn't even play his senior year.
It's wild.
That's mind-boggling. And he did it at Saraland. He's not. Hey, sometimes you can put up some PlayStation type numbers if you play at a 1A or 2A school. But here's a kid in 6A football, arguably in the toughest region in the state, 6A Region 1, just ridiculous, where every week it's Saraland's playing Spanish Fort, they're playing Blunt, they're playing Theodore. I mean, they're playing somebody good every week, and he still is that level of production. So how's that going to carry over? And are we – but let's be fair. 2 guys I'll name really quick. Here's me going a little negative here. We just said LT Overton played too soon. I mean, he's playing at the line of scrimmage when he should have been in the 12th grade. Is it too soon for Ryan? Here's another 5-star reclass that's a student at University of Alabama, Jaron Stevenson, who was a 5-star in his class, who moved up. Yes, he was a good player at Alabama, and I don't know that Alabama beats North Carolina at the end without him. But the fact of the matter is, was Jaron Stevenson a great college basketball player all season long in his first year? No, it was a struggle for him, particularly if he had to bang with a big body inside. He just wasn't ready for that, nor should he have been. But the point is Ryan going to have his Jaron Stevenson moments or Jaron Stevenson year? Is he going to be like LT Overton when you look back on things and say, maybe he wasn't ready for that? Those are fair questions. But this guy has been such a dude from day one. If I just don't doubt Ryan when it comes to anything. If there's a medical emergency and someone needs an appendectomy tomorrow, I want Ryan doing the surgery. I mean, he's been fantastic at everything he's ever done since I've been aware of him, and I've been aware of him since day one, 9th grade at Saraland. So yeah, I'm looking forward to Ryan for sure.
Those are all good points, and I think for Ryan and really all the receivers, I think they have explosive playmaking ability, and I think having a guy like Jalen Milroe who has a cannon of an arm is beneficial, and it has to be Milroe for me. I don't think he's going to be necessarily tested by the secondary that the Hilltoppers are going to put on the field, but I just want to see what he looks like in this offense, man. It's been a long off season. He stuck around. He was one of Alabama's more vocal players when Nick Saban retired. He's a second-time team captain, and I think his teammates respect him. And I think he's someone we've heard all year about how he gets to the building like at 4 a.m. He's there early, leaves late. He's been locked in. And I know, Kalen DeBoer, when asked, I've asked him a couple of times now, just the progress that Jalen's made. And he's always talked about consistency. And I get that, some people are like, well, he could be consistently bad. I don't think that's the case. I don't think these offensive coaches, you can't pick up on that from the things that they've said. I think he's been good. I think he's continued on a positive trajectory this preseason. He had a good start to fall camp. He was good at the scrimmages. And I think just this offense this first game, the offense isn't going to be just wide open, but it's going to be fascinating just to see what they do to set him up for success. And I think that more than anything else is maybe what I'm most excited to see on Saturday.
Yeah, what's really, truly remarkable about Jalen Milroe to me, Charlie, is he handles the celebrity part so well.
He does.
He wears that well as the face. There is no question. Who is the face of Alabama football in 2024. There is no question who that is. And he handles that so well. Yet, as you mentioned, talking about it, he's the hardest working kid on the team, the hardest working guy out there. I mean, when Matchbox 20 wrote that song, "It's 3 a.m., you must be lonely," they're talking about Milroe showing up at the football building every day. I mean, he's literally getting there before the janitorial service. He's the hardest working kid on the team and the biggest celebrity. But when you add all that up, you oftentimes get a real special player. And let's see if Milroe takes that next big step forward like he can. The right offense may have shown up just in time for him.
Yeah, and kind of one beat of that. We'll close with this. It's Kalen DeBoer spoke highly of the entire quarterback room. I think Alabama's QB room is really, really strong. Ty Simpson's probably the best backup quarterback in the country. I think Austin Mack and Dylan Lonergan have done some good things and taken some positive steps. And you see kind of the strength of this room displayed in what's happening elsewhere. We saw Eli Holstein was named the starting quarterback for Pitt's first game of the season. So I think this room is in really good shape. And, obviously we've seen what they've been doing from a recruiting effort too. So I think with Kalen DeBoer, a more offensive-minded head coach, and with Nick Sheridan and the way that they work together to work the offense around the personnel they have and around the quarterback that they have, I think all these guys are really set up for success. And speaking of set up for success, man, this show's been great. I like what Tim Watts did with the logo that he got above it.
Look at that.
It's been, yeah.
Tech whiz, Tim Watts. Tech
Yeah,
whiz.
well, no,
it's
that's
like, a lot of people don't know he's like Mark Zuckerberg.
No. We're not giving Tim that credit. That's called Tim made a phone call or a text to somebody and got it done. But that's the power of Tim.
I meant to say Jack Terry. Jack Terry.
Yeah.
Jack Terry is literally Mark Zuckerberg.
Appreciate that, Jack. But no, it's been a lot of fun, man. We've talked a lot this offseason, but the next time we'll talk, it'll be after the first game. That's really, really exciting. And you guys will want to stay locked into this YouTube channel. I know after the game, I think Jimmy, you and Tim and whoever else, I don't even know the schedule, it's so loaded, are going to give their thoughts. And be sure to like and subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know whenever those videos are posted. And of course, we'll be over at BOL on the round table. This weekend will be really, really bumping. That message board is alive on Saturday nights. And I think a lot of people are excited to see this DeBoer era kick off, man.
Oh, I know I am. And yeah, stay tuned. There'll be a ton of content. Believe me, Charlie Rain's content, even when Alabama's not playing games. The fact that Alabama will be playing a game, it'll be something. I think Sundays and Mondays, especially on our board, there'll be a ton of stuff. And looking forward to a lot more shows. As a matter of fact, we have a pretty heavy show rotation planned that you guys will start to see next week.
Yep. So stay locked in with us. We'll be locked into the season, and guys, football season's here. Can't wait to talk about it. So until next time, so long, everybody.